Oh, hello you lot, how's it going? You all good, fine and dandy? Let's talk about carburetors. What's the point of a carburetor? What does it do? Why is it there? How should you use it? How do you know whether it's any good? I don't know. What are you asking me for? I don't know. I'm going to go and get Manuel, he's going to tell you. So, carburetors. What they are is they're a metering device. If you was to take a carburetor off of your engine, take it off, and you'll get a hole there. We'll have a look at it in a minute. I'm going to take this carb off of this engine, and we're going to have a look at it, and we're going to take the carburetor apart so you can have a look to see what's inside. But if you was to take that carburetor off and just put some nitro straight into the hole, into the block, and then try and start it, it would start. It would be unmetered, so it would rev, like it would just rev up, because the air is unmetered. It's just sucking in as much air as it wants, and it'll rev until it burns that fuel off, and it'll burn it off as quick as it can. So it will just go wham, and it will rev. If you just put a little bit in, it won't rev very high. It will just bob. But if you whack a load in there, it's going to try and burn it off quick, and it's just going to rev high. You can try it, by all means, try it, but be ready. It's just going to rev high. If you put enough in it, it'll probably blow up. The job of the carburetor is to meter the amount of nitro going in via the high end needle. Some carburetors, have I got a demonstration? No. My demonstration carburetors haven't got a mid-range needle either. That's a shame, I can't show you a mid-range. But imagine a needle there. I have got some around with mid-range needles, but I'm not going to go dismantling cars at the moment. These are mid-demonstration, and that's as far as it goes. A mid-range needle and a low-end needle there. We'll look at them in great detail in a minute, as I've just explained. And you've got a tick-over screw as well. So those needles are valves, essentially. Some people literally call them needle valves. I don't. I just call them jets. But for the sake of nitro, I call them needles. The more you turn those in, the more they restrict the flow of the fuel going in. But the air is metered by the butterfly or the slide, or whatever you would like to call it, that goes in and out there. There are different types. I've got different types. I'll show you the different types. So it's essentially a metering device to meter the amount of nitro and air going into the engine, thus metering the power and the revs. As we know, the more we open the throttle and close the throttle, the more you open it, the more it rev, the more power you get. The more you close it, the less power, and it goes down to a slow tick over. That's how it works. I've got some demonstration ones here. Let's have a look, and let's take one of them apart. In fact, we'll just take the one off of this engine probably, or we might take this one apart. Let's take this one apart. It's an OS carb. It's already off an engine. Let's just take this one apart, and we'll have a look inside this one. It's quite easy to do. Let's have a look. Come on. Don't be shy. Come on. Let's go. Come on. So, this one. This is an OS carb, made in Japan. Quite a good carburetor. It's got a high end, a low end. It hasn't got a mid-range needle. It's not really important. A lot of people don't even touch the mid-range needles. I like to play around with them, but a lot of people don't. This is a slide version. And it's also got, as you can see there, the short low-end needle. Some people say these aren't as good, because you can see the low end needle with that little part there protruding. If we just do that, little part protruding there, that point is the low speed needle, the low end needle. Listen, there's all fixed varying opinions on the length, because you can get ones that are long, and when the carb is fully on full throttle, it won't come all the way out. Do you know what I mean? It's always a part of it inside the little housing. I have no preference personally. I mean, a carb's a carb. They all work in the same. They all do their job. If you treat them well, if you treat them and have them adjusted more or less correctly, they all do the same job. A lot of people seem to say, oh, this carb is no good, that carb's no good. The thing you've got to understand is with carburetors, they've all got pros and cons. They've all got strong points and bad points, but for the most part, they're all the same design. Some companies do tweak the design slightly with the Venturis. This particular one has a removable Venturi that you can take out if you pull hard enough. Of course, it's not going to come out because I want it to come out. There we go. That's a removable Venturi, and you can change it for different millimeters. For example, in my Nova, in one of my Nova engines, I've got a 7mm, the other one I've got a 9mm. The higher the number, the more this is opened. Like 9mm is obviously wider than a 7mm. The more air you get in, the more fuel you burn, but the more power you have. The smaller this Venturi, the less fuel you'll burn, but also the less power you'll have, because there'll be less air going in. Think of an engine like a pump. The more air and nitro you can pump through that engine, the more power you'll get. Until a certain point, obviously, when the pump reaches its capacity, just like a water pump. It'll only pump so many litres per hour, and you need a bigger pump to pump more litres per hour. Same for an engine, it'll only produce so much horsepower. You can pump as much fuel through it as you want, but it will reach a point where it just can't make any more because the size of the engine has reached its capacity. But the more you pump through, the better it'll be. So you can remove them ones. These ones, they're not removable Venturis. They are what they are. You can't adjust them. The air filter goes on there, and it is what it is. So you can also get these type. These are like a rotary type. People have different names for them. I just call them a rotary carb because it's just the only name I've got for them, but there's probably a real name. I'm not a big person for actual names. I just call things what they are and confuse people. That one twists like that. I don't really like these types of carburetor. I think they're a bit annoying because these little nuts always come loose when you don't want them to come loose, and they fall apart. This is the low speed, that is the high speed. That is the tick over screw. You will find some carburetors, mainly this type of carburetor, have a screw with a spring on the outside to do the tick over. Usually these slidey carbs, they do sometimes have screws with springs on the outside, but usually there's a screw inside the casing like that. That is the tick over screw, and all that does, the more you screw that in, it stops. It's just a stopper. It doesn't actually mean to anything. It just stops the slide from going in all the way, and that's how you make a higher tick over. Screw to screw in, it pushes the slide out a little bit. You get a higher tick over because the gap is bigger, letting more air in. More air means more fuel because there's more vacuum. It sucks air with it, sucks fuel with it. So we can take this carburetor apart. All we have to do, usually you'd have to get a spanner on there and undo it, but this one was already loose for some reason, so I can just do it by hand. This is the high speed needle, and we can just unscrew that, and there'll be a little washer, a little sealing washer, and then there'll be your inlet. Call that whatever you want to call it. I just call it an inlet thing. It's probably got a name, I don't really care. It's an inlet thing that goes in there. That can become blocked because that's obviously got a little hole in it. That's where your fuel pipe would go on, and there's obviously a little hole you can hopefully see through there. Yep. And obviously the hole is on the other side. That can become blocked, so if you've got a blockage problem, check that. But most likely the blockage, there's another washer on the other side of that, by the way, for sealing it up. The most likely thing to be blocked is these little holes here, or that little hole there. These are the ones that the nitro goes through. And the way this works, if you just allow me to get my screwdriver, this is the needle valve, as they call it. I just call it a jet, but you can call it whatever you want to call it. That comes out of there. This is tapered, as you may be able to see, and the way that it works, obviously because it's tapered at the end, it's thinner and it gets fatter. The more you screw it in, the more it restricts the amount of fuel, the amount of nitro being able to go through here. That's where it goes in. It goes through there into that hole, and then it goes out through that hole at the end. That screw being screwed in obviously restricts it. the more you screw the screw out, the more fuel you get. Screw it in, the less fuel. Richer, leaner. Richer, leaner. Check that if you think you've got a blockage. You can clean all this as well. There's a little sealing O-ring on the top of it. These often perish, or they just go hard, or whatever. You'll know if one of these is gone because the screw will be really easy to turn and it will detune itself while it's running. So if you've got a carburetor that regularly detunes itself, it either goes rich or lean, this washer's probably the culprit. You just take this screw out. You haven't got to take the carburetor off the engine or do anything. Just take the screw out, put a new washer on. You can find them in many hobby shops, or just buy yourself an O-ring kit and put a new one on, and you'll find the screws are a lot more harder to turn, which means it won't move by itself. It's all about friction. The tick over screw, this will have a spring on the inside. If we take this out, this will have a spring on the inside of it. Well, typically this one hasn't got much of a spring. Sometimes there's a spring on the inside in there that you can see. Perhaps there is and it's just not visible on this one. I don't know. This has got a little washer on it as well, just for sealing. It's quite dirty actually. And you can see this one's not tapered. So this one is literally just a stopper. Now, we're going to need... bear with me a minute. We need to take off the end, so we need the smallest one. The smallest Allen key that I've got. And what you do is you take off this, take this little grub screw, but you don't need to remove it all the way. That then comes off, and then you can slide this little boot off of there. Well, this time the whole thing's come with it, but sometimes it doesn't. There we go. There's the little boot, so if you need to replace this boot because it's split, you just do it by doing that. Now we've got, I didn't mean to take it out in one go, I wanted to do it afterwards, but it's done it by itself. So here, this is the throttle slide. I call it the throttle slide. It's probably got a different name, as always, but there you go. That is the low end needle poking through there, and we can take that out. And we can take that out to change the O-ring, if the O-ring's had it. Or if you think you've got a blockage, you can take it out and you can check to make sure that all the little holes and all the little orifices and all this is fine. You don't really get blockages in the low end, no. The blockages are usually in the high end part of things. But this is the low speed needle. This is what it looks like on the inside. So when you're adjusting your low speed needle, this is what it looks like. As I say, you can get ones that are a bit longer, and they're always going through that little hole that you may or may not be able to see. In there at the back there's a little hole. Don't know whether my light, there it is, you can see the little hole there now. That needle goes through there when the throttle's closing. When it's fully on wide open throttle, it's not in there. There we go. I think that's better. See? It's about there when it's on wide open, but you can get longer ones that always are in. Listen, people say there's benefits to either one. I don't really notice much of a difference. Listen, but my expectations and the way that I run engines, I don't really care for pros and cons. I accept the engine, I accept the carburetor for what it is, and I just run it accordingly. I'm not really fussy and all this about different things like a lot of people are. So I haven't really got a preference myself on which one's better, which one's not. But there we go. There's not a lot to a Nitro carburetor. That's what you've got. This is the main body of the carburetor. On this particular one, there will be some others where you could probably take more of it apart, but not really. I mean, they are what they are. You can't really take more of them apart. This is pretty much it. You can blow that through there with a bit of air and brake cleaner if you want to clean it all out. Make sure everything's clean, but that's what you've got. Very easy, very simple, not a lot there. So hopefully now you understand what a carburetor does and how it works. So, just to summarise on that then, I don't think there's really anything more I can say about that. We've taken it apart. You've seen everything what's inside it. There's Nitro carburetors are so simple and easy. If you want to complicated ones, you're looking at ones that go on real size cars, you know, 4 barrels. Single barrels not so bad. You've got twins, you've got 4 barrels, you know, you've got Harleys or Hollies or whatever you lot call them in America. Don't really see many of them over here in England. Those are a little bit more complicated, but a Nitro carburetor is pure and simple. So just to summarise, all it does is it meters the air and the fuel going in. You adjust that with these screws, the low and the high, and the mid-range in some cases. The more you screw the screws in, the less fuel will go in and the less air. However, obviously that's why you get a lean mixture, because there still will be more air than fuel going in, but as really a rule there will be less of both, because if there's less fuel, the engine can't run as well to suck the air in, if that makes any sense, because it can't get the RPMs up if there's not enough fuel, is what I'm trying to say. That's how you get more power, because you screw the screws in, it meters less fuel, which means there's more air, which means the fuel combusts better. It gets you're getting more out of that fuel that you are burning. You get more power, you get higher revs, and so on and so forth, until you get not enough fuel, and then it can't suck in enough air, and then that's when you get a too lean of a mixture, and that's when it doesn't run. But anyway, don't think there's much more to say about it. If you've got any questions, put them in the comments, but I think that's everything to do with carburetors. I can't think of anything else. We covered Venturis, we've covered high and low, Nitro and the mid-range, which we can't demonstrate because I haven't got one and I can't be bothered to get one out. The tick over screw, we've talked about how that works. That's it. As simple as that. I hope it helped you. Any questions, put them in the comments. And I've seen recently people have been putting questions in the comments and I haven't been able to get to them because I'm just doing other stuff. And when I have got to them, you lot, other subscribers and channel members, have been helping, have been replying to those comments, helping the people out that want help. That's what I like to see, because we're all friends, we're all in the same world, so we should all get on and all help each other. It doesn't happen in the world, but it happens here. So there we go. I'll catch you later on. There's going to be plenty more videos like this one coming up soon, because 2025 has been, I think it's been the year for Nitro. Everybody's just been going mad for Nitro this year. I've had constant stream of questions, people digging out their old Nitro cars or buying Nitro cars, and they won't run or whatever. This has been the busiest year for a long time when it comes to Nitro RC. So Nitro's thriving this year is all I can say. I'll catch you later on. All the best.